Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Wisely Spiritual Podcast. I'm with Amy, and we are doing the moon forecast. And this is a new podcast, kind of special event thing that we're doing for the new moon and full moon each month. It's going to correlate with an actual group class that we're teaching on the new moon or full moon. So welcome, everyone. We're going to be going over what's happening astrologically during this time, as well as giving you some intentions to set and talking about an activity that you can do. So make sure you follow along and sign up for a newsletter so you get our information that we send out and we provide during this podcast. So Amy, she's joining me again. Thank you for doing this. I'm so happy we get to, join powers and host something like this. So let's talk about the new moon. It's in Aquarius, and I'm actually super excited about everything that's going on right now. It feels so positive and forward thinking. So
yes, and it's definitely much needed energy. I know we keep talking about all of the heavy energy that we were in last year, but we're now turning this page, and there's this Aquarius is such different energy than what we've been dealing with, and we're just at the starting point of what's going to be happening. So it feels really good.
Yeah,
it's really positive, and it's really working in our favor. But we're also, we're in the building stages of what's going to happen. So it's good to kind of take a closer look at all that energy that's coming in for us.
Yeah, and then we have this stellium coming up in Aquarius where we have, the sun, moon, I wrote it down, Venus, Jupiter, Saturn, and an asteroid, and as well as Mercury. And you were talking about there was another asteroid too. That was
Taurus.
Oh, okay. That's in Taurus. Yeah. So, we talked about the history of this. Do you want to give our viewers what you were telling me earlier?
Yeah. So not only, we have new moons are when the sun and the moon are in the same position in the sky. So the sun and the moon are coming together in Aquarius, which is already super fortuitous and a really positive energy to work with. But not only that, but we're ushering in this Aquarius energy with all of those other planets in Aquarius as well. And so when that many planets come together, I believe it's 4 or more planets in the same sign. When they come together, it's considered or called a stellium. And so in order to kind of look at the energy and see what we can expect from it, I always like to go back and see in history where that has happened prior. And so when I was doing my research on this energy, I found that the last time we had a stellium in Aquarius was in 1962. And seeing where we, being now in 2021, we can look back at the 1960s and be like, wow, that time period in history was so important and pivotal to where we are now. We had, the civil rights movement happening. Yep. We had, women fighting for their rights and more equality in their relationships and business. We had the hippies and a lot of innovative music and art coming out. There was a sexual revolution and all of these really poignant, important things that were happening. And we can, now we can say, well, all that was really positive. And well, some people might not think it was so positive, but overall as a society and a culture, those things were key elements into making what our society is now.
Mm-hmm.
And we can also look back and see that a lot of people back then were really, really resistant to those changes. And they thought it was going to be the downfall of society and it was immoral. And, but in a lot of ways, it helped propel us forward into this new way of being and this new consciousness. And that's very, very much Aquarius energy right there.
Yeah. No, I'm excited. I want to be a part of the change.
Yeah, it's really exciting to be in this time. I remember being in, high school and thinking, wow, nothing exciting ever happens in the 90s. I mean,
Yeah.
we had the grunge thing, and that was, now we, that was important in its own way, but it wasn't that liberating movement that happened in the 60s. And I was always kind of envious that I wasn't part of some kind of movement.
Hmm.
And now we're having this second wave of this expansive, liberating energy that's happening. Um, and I'm so curious to see how that is gonna like propel us forward into new and better ways of being as a whole society.
I hope so. And I hope it brings, during that time, they also had a very like spiritual revolution. And I
Yeah.
feel like we really need another spiritual revolution and we need to get more people connected with the spiritual side of their
Mhm.
existence. And
Yeah, there was a lot that happened in the 60s,
oh
and
my gosh,
on
yeah.
the spiritual side, like meditation and yoga became, um, moved to the West from the Eastern cultures, and it was starting to be looked at and embraced, and then also, to more of an extreme, like, psychedelic drugs were, like, helping to expand consciousness as well, and I'm not saying,
Mhm.
necessarily an advocate for that, but there is a lot to be said for, being able to open your mind to new things.
Oh yeah, no, I mean with the Aquarius, you bring in like the science behind everything, but there's also that, spiritual level that you're also integrating with it. And during one of my past podcasts, I've spoken to a doctor who works down in California and is working on microdosing to help with depression. And that is such an epic, like huge societal issue that we have right now. And to be able to, dive more, I would love to see people more dive more deeply into this and to really figure out how to solve past trauma. And if you're open to that sort of thing, then you should. Science is leading the way, and we should maybe pay attention to stuff like that just because we're fearful of drugs, like, that they're using. There's some great benefits to it. I was listening to him, I was like, man,
Yeah, and I think we're gonna see a lot more of that,
yeah.
looking at the science of things. I mean, recently, just in the last couple of years, science finally confirmed that there is a soul. I mean, of
Hmm.
course, being in the spiritual world, we've always believed that, but science wants to have to prove things, and so they've recently decided that there's a soul, and I think we're gonna see more things, and even things coming out, like the government admitting that there's, alien presence, and that they're aware of it.
There's
Not
totally
out just
aliens.
this last year officially, but I mean, that's something that a lot of us have always kind of believed. So, um, it's like finally, science and spirituality are starting to merge, which is another Aquarian aspect.
Hmm.
And I think it's going to be really interesting to see how we can use those two things that have always tried to stay on either opposite sides of things come together to really
Yeah,
benefit all of us.
I totally agree. I, you know me, I'm like totally into the aliens. So I'm just waiting.
I think I've always had this general curiosity for the things that no one could explain, the things that kind of felt a little out there, and a lot of people considered conspiracy theories for a long time. Um, that there's always been way more than what we can physically see, and so
Yes,
really exciting. All of these new kind of.
I know. I can't wait to see what
And I
comes
was
out.
actually just talking to a friend the other day, and we were talking about because, when I mean, you and I are close to the same age, but when I started getting involved in this in my late teens, early 20s, and starting to investigate, like the internet wasn't really a thing. Like
No,
we didn't have access to all the information that we have access to, and um, it was kind of like this hush hush thing. Like you'd go in the back of the bookstore into like the secret new age section and hope that nobody saw you there as you like skim the books going, oh my gosh, this stuff actually exists. Like I'm not just making this up in my head. Um, And now it's becoming like so many more people are becoming aware and waking up to possibilities of other things and looking at spirituality in different ways. And I think it's great. It's
No, it's totally true though.
not to be the crazy person anymore in the back of the bookstore.
Yes. I'm so thankful because when I first started even, tarot reading when I was super young, it was really kind of like you're a weirdo.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember in high school, people had come over to my house, and I was a fairly normal teenager. You wouldn't look at me and go, she's, she reads tarot cards and is into all of that. And, I had this inset in my room, and one of my guy friends walked up and he's like, oh, what is this? And so he made me do a reading on him. And it was just like kind of a weird, shocking thing to a lot of people that I had been exposed to that in a young age. And you really couldn't access in any information any other way other than, sneaking into like a weird bookstore and, kind of hiding it from people that that would judge you.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's out there for everyone. We can all find it. We can all access it fairly easy. And you can find the right teachers for you, which is awesome. You don't have to be stuck with whoever you can find at that moment.
Mm-hmm. Finding and having a teacher who's kind of you can relate to is huge.
Yeah.
I've been really lucky to have quite a few teachers that have helped me throughout the time, and really grateful to start moving into more of a teaching role now for those who are starting their journey into this.
Oh my gosh. And just building a community. That's what I'm excited about. We already have a small network of people that we work with locally, but to be able to do it on a grand scale and to have people come in and be able to talk with people from around the world and interact with them and share their knowledge. I love hearing other people's takes on astrology, on spirituality, on, setting, your magical rituals, that sort of thing. So excited.
Yes, definitely.
All right. Well, let's talk about so we also have the Lunar New Year coming up. Did you read much into that at all, Amy?
Yeah, so I mean the Lunar New Year is different from our regular New Year, and the Chinese, of course, are the ones who we most know that follow the Lunar New Year.
Yeah.
And it starts at the same time as this new moon. It always starts at I believe the first new moon of the year. After, well, not the first new moon of the year, but yeah. Usually around this time. And this Lunar New Year, this Chinese New Year, is in the sign of the ox, but it's a metal ox, which is a very grounded and earthy sign to be in. So it's going to be really good. It's not like it's not a sprint, it's a marathon type thing.
Yeah.
And I know Aquarius energy especially wants to like move forward really quickly, but it's also, we have this very grounding energy that's happening at the same time to be like, well, let's build something permanent and substantial, not just like we can build it or make these changes, but let's really be mindful of how we're doing that and moving in like a steady, steadfast way.
Yeah. And I was also drawn to like the honesty of it, that, this is kind of like a year of honesty. And that means everyone becoming who they honestly want to be and stop living in that world where, they're hiding away or they're not really sharing their gifts with the world, and being honest and transparent, maybe even on like a government level, right?
Mm-hmm.
With things. So that's what I loved about the energy that's coming in, with this new Lunar New Year. So, and it's great
about that at the full moon, about, kind of like the reason why we do things and questioning why it is that we behave in certain ways or the rules that we've set up for ourselves. And then now we're giving an opportunity to maybe look at things a little bit differently and shake away some of the restrictions that we place on ourselves or that we feel of what we should do and not necessarily what feels good to us.
Mm-hmm.
And so we did a lot of that clearing, and now we're in the, with new moons, they come in and they're very forward moving and intention setting.
Yes.
Energies. So
I totally agree. And then, so our activity that we were talking about that we're going to do, we're hosting a class on the night of the 11th during the full moon. We're hoping to use all the good energy that we have going on with that to really set some intentions and to do a project with the group that wants to join us. So if you want to join us, the link is in my Instagram bio. For the class, it's $5, so fairly cheap. You will need to bring your own materials, and we are going to create some vision boards. We're going to open it up to the community so you can chat with other ladies, as well as chat to us and get any kind of guidance you need. So please join us if you're interested. But if you want to just be an at-home learner by yourself, we want to talk to you briefly about this activity that you can do on your own.
Yeah. So new moons, sorry, not full moons. That was last time. New moons are a time that is really good to set intentions. And we do that because the moon is going to be waxing. So it's going from not being visible in the sky to being full. And that's a period of growth and allowing things to manifest. And so I always at new moons like to sit down and look at the energy that's coming up for it, and then start kind of envisioning what I want to bring into my life at that time. And so it's really great to take some time to really tap into what it is you want on a soul level. This isn't just like, I want $1 million in my bank account tomorrow type of stuff. It's more long-term. It can be short-term energy, but we always talk about the cycles. You have a 2-week cycle from the time the new moon is, full. And then you have a month cycle from new moon to new moon. And then you also have the year cycle from, it'll be like the Aquarius new moon to next year's Aquarius new moon. And a lot can transpire in that. And the reason why we set intentions is because, it's creating a conversation with the universe. I mean, the universe, if you choose to believe, and I do, that it's always working on your behalf and that it's always working for your greater good, it has infinite possibilities and it can do lots of things. But when you actually sit down and you set your intentions, you're creating this space and starting this conversation with the universe about what it is that you really want and desire. It's creates a vibration. It's the same as saying a prayer, or making a wish, or having any kind of, you're creating this environment for the universe to start moving in a direction on your behalf.
Yes, you're creating that energy, that starting point.
Yeah, there's always a quote that I think of when about setting intentions, and it's actually a book called The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. And it says, and when you want something, all the universe conspires in helping you achieve it. But it can't do its job until you let it know what it is that you want. And I know that the conversation always comes up, especially in our little groups that we have, is like, well, how do you set intentions? How do you phrase them? How do you give them space to grow and do what they want to do? And I always tell people that there are a couple things to keep in mind when you're setting intentions. And one is, they don't have to be realistic or logical for you at the time. Like, this is your soul's wish for yourself.
Dream big.
Yeah, you can dream big. You can put anything on there that you want, as long as it is something that you truly desire. You want to phrase it in a positive way. You don't want to say, I don't want to be poor anymore. You want to say, I have abundance. And you want to phrase it as if you already have it in your life.
And I always use like words of thanks as well. So thanking the universe. That's usually how I start off mine.
Absolutely. Yeah. There is an energy that comes with gratitude, and that just brings more, like when you're already grateful for what you have or what you want to have, it creates a vibration of, it's like a magnet. It attracts it to you.
Positive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the universe wants, it's like if you have like your child, if you have a child and, you keep giving them things and they just like throw it to the side, you're gonna be like, well, I'm not going to give you anything anymore. So if they're really grateful, you're like, oh, this is really nice. They really appreciated this. And so I feel more apt to give them more what they want. And that's the same kind of energy. The other thing is that once you set your intentions, you have to let it go. You can't sit and obsess over when is it
No.
coming? When am I going to get it? The universe has its own divine timeline for things. And a lot of times with really important intentions that we're setting, there are a lot of pieces and a lot of people that have to get involved and on the same page. And it's like this big orchestra of events and things that happen in order to bring that into your life.
Yes. I taught a class actually, for like business people, and we went through the, intention setting as far as dream big. And, I started at 10 years, worked it down to 5, 2, and then the current year. And then from there, we actually took that. And those are your intentions that you set aside. Some people like to visually see them, like especially their yearly intentions, and have them with them. I have them with me. But also from your intention, setting up a plan. So those are mine that I keep.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. And I keep them in front of me. My yearly ones, I don't necessarily obsess about them. Some people do. And it's sort of, I've always been like, you can do whatever you want. But we took the intentions and actually broke it down into a plan, and how to achieve them. And so that was the piece that's a little bit different, that people think about how they can actively set goals versus their intentions. So
yeah, there's a difference between having letting it go completely and then having a plan. Like it's good to have a plan.
Yeah.
But you also have to leave it open for your plan not to go the way that you necessarily think it should.
Exactly.
And to be able to say, well, this feels good to me, so I'm going to move in this direction, not necessarily knowing where that direction is going, because ultimately it's probably taking you to a much better place than you could have even
for sure
thought of at the time when you were writing these intentions.
For sure. One of the ladies I worked with that I actually talked to recently, she wanted, her intentions was she wanted to get into the medical field. And her plan was to go to nursing school. And she ended up having an opportunity to go into holistic healing, and she's become hugely successful in it. And it feels like that, that's what the universe brought for her. She didn't lock down her intentions of necessarily being a nurse. That was her plan, but the universe actually brought her something way greater.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's really important, is that you have to remember that there, with lots and lots of possibilities, there's a level of trust that you're putting in the universe to bring it to you in its highest good for yourself and for your life. Especially with Aquarius energy that we're in right now. Aquarian energy does not want you to go by the status quo. Mm-hmm. It doesn't want you to keep doing things the way you've always done. And if you have a plan, it's going to be like, but why are you doing that plan? Because there are millions of other plans and this one might be better. And so I think a lot of, especially with this moon, it's like, it's a good moon for dreaming big, and then also putting in trust and letting go of the way that you think should be, because the way you think it should be is probably not the way it's going to go. And the sooner you get comfortable with that, the easier things often are. And that brings up like another part of what's happening in the astrology right now is we do have the stellium in Aquarius, which is all about, being revolutionary. And I actually I kept hearing the word revolutionary over and over
Yeah.
when I was thinking about this, because I was like, oh, I don't know if I want a big revolution. We've had enough, have enough revolution happening. But I looked at the definition, and the definition was kind of like a sudden or drastic change in something, or where is it? Sudden or drastic change and a transformation.
Mm-hmm.
And when we hear revolutionary, we think it has to be this big, bold statement.
Yeah.
But when you look at the definition, you can take it down. It could be something so simple as waking up 15 minutes earlier and deciding to take that time to meditate or write out what you want to happen for the day or how you want to feel for the day, and setting like small little intentions. It doesn't have to be something huge and big that overhauls your life immediately, but it can just be those subtle, drastic changes that really help propel you into a different trajectory for yourself.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, I write, as you know, and I recently took a class with a publisher I work with, and they were talking about, people were in this class and they were like, I get stuck. I can't, move myself along. And I write I just write lots in kind of dumps the way I do it. But they talked about, setting 15 minutes a day and trying to write 1,000 words or, 200 words, whatever you can get out in that time. And in a year, you're going to have a book. And I was like, well, that's very true. Like, if you think you'll never complete this book, you can make 15 minutes out of your day. I know you can, to write.
Mm-hmm.
And, that little tiny change can lead to, a total transformation in your life.
Oh, definitely. So. Yeah. And then, so we have that happening in Aquarius, this revolutionary energy. And then on the other big energy that we have going on is that we have
do you hear my dog snoring?
Oh no, I didn't hear it.
Okay, good. If you hear a snoring noise, that's my dog, I swear.
So we have Taurus, which is in Uranus, and that's been going on for about a year. And it's a 7-year cycle. So this is, another long-term energy. But Uranus is ruled by Aquarius as well. That's its, it's its home planet. And so it's not necessarily comfortable in Taurus.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then we also have Mars in Taurus right now. And that's only going to be happening for another couple of weeks. But both Uranus and Mars, and then there's Moon, which is involved, Lilith, which is a minor moon, but still an important aspect to astrology. That's in Taurus as well. And all three of those are not like sedentary energies. They want to come in and shake things up, and they're very action oriented, and they want to get things moving. And here they are in Taurus. And if you know anything about Taurus, it likes its comfort, and it likes its plans, and it likes to
Steady Eddie.
It likes to plod along and do things in its own time. And here you have these 3 planetary energies that are going, nope, we don't want to do that anymore. We want things to be different, and we want to get things moving. And so there's kind of this little ebb and flow happening of like, well, what are we going to do? It's like we don't want to rush into making these major changes, but we want to start allowing for something different to come in and allow these energies to transform and liberate us from the way that in things that maybe aren't working for us anymore, which is always good. It's just not always comfortable for a lot of people.
Yeah. I think that's what people fear the most, is actually the change. And I'm in myself, I know that's a lot of what I feel too. I actually don't like, I want change, but I'm like, oh, I don't really want change. Yeah. I'm comfortable with how I am.
I'm good with being right here. But at the same time, it's like, I think everyone at least everyone I know, tends to have a bigger vision for their life than necessarily where they're sitting in it right now. And you're not going to get from point A to point B if you just get too comfortable with where you are.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be some uncomfortableness happening. And
For sure.
having the ability to just kind of allow that transformation. And that's what I love about doing this type of work and looking at the energies is when you know what the energy is and what its purpose is, it's much easier to align with it instead of fight with it. So
Yes.
when I started looking at that and kind of understanding it and working in sync with the way the universe was trying to move things, things became so much easier to navigate.
Yeah, I totally agree. Paying attention to what is going on, the astrology and the energy and the ebbs and flows that we have in the universe has opened all these doors to me. And I feel like I understand. I feel less agitated now because now if I'm feeling a little bit off, I can go look at my charts and see what's going on. And usually it'll tell me why I'm feeling a little bit off.
Yeah.
So,
We also do still have Mercury in retrograde right now, and that's going to be happening on the 20th. And so that also kind of puts a damper on wanting to rush into things right now, because you don't want to make any strong commitments to anything at the moment. Mercury retrograde is more about looking back and maybe like repairing or rebuilding things from the past, or kind of looking at things from a second point of view. So it's good to really kind of like take into consideration what you want to bring in, but you don't have to make any sudden movements, which is kind of nice.
yeah.
As a Taurus, I appreciate not having to decide things right away.
I love you, Amy.
I
appreciate you.
Get things done, and I will eventually move. But when I do, it'll be from a place of being sure that that's the direction I want to go in, and not just fly by the seat of my pants. Although on occasion I do that well because I have an Aries moon. So
Yeah.
sometimes that moon takes over.
And then also happening on the 11th, I thought we should just point out too, is there's like extra energy because we have Venus in Aquarius that conjuncts Jupiter in Aquarius, and it's really about us attracting what we want.
Mm-hmm.
So, as we come into this new moon on that same day, there's also this additional energy. So, when we tell you to set your intentions, you really use that energy of that day and make it happen.
Yeah. So. Jupiter being the biggest planet, it's like the great attractor. It adds extra to everything it comes in contact with. And it's super good luck. It's very good positive energy. So it meeting with Venus, which controls, relationships and love and money and all the feel good stuff. Like that's really, really potent.
It is
energy to work with.
Oh, no. I definitely agree. I have already set my intent. How do you feel about that? I feel like I set my intentions. Then I was like, I'm going to revamp them a little bit, set them again. It's fine.
Yeah, it's okay. Good to clarify. I think so. And of course, sometimes your intentions change. Maybe at one point in your life, you really thought you wanted to move to California for, some people really want to move to California.
Mm-hmm.
Grew up there. I love it. I'm not going back.
I love California too, but I also feel the same way. Like,
yeah. But I mean, at one point in your life, maybe that's what you really wanted to do. And you were setting intentions like, I'm going to move to California and start this beautiful life. And maybe now in your life, you're thinking that that's not the right place for you. And that's okay to change your intentions. We change, we grow, we evolve, we start getting like internal hunches that something else is better for us.
Oh, for sure. Things are changing in the world. So Amy is from the Seattle area, just like I am, but I have been really wanting to move to somewhere hot. And I was specifically thinking Arizona, and I kept trying and it didn't quite work. And that's where my intentions were set. And I ended up, I'm now in Idaho, in Coeur d'Alene is where I'm kind of hanging out now for the time being, but I still want to go somewhere hot. So I'm just kind of letting the universe guide me.
Yeah. I always figure when I'm meant to move, I'm going to get that spark that says now, like this
Yeah.
is what you're supposed to do. And I've done that before. When I finished massage school, I was like, I'm going to go work on a cruise ship, which I had done before, but I was like, I'm going to save money and then I'm going to move to, and I like wasn't even sure. I was like, I knew I wanted to work in a spa, like a really fancy spa.
Ooh.
And I bought a magazine and I flipped through it and I was like, that's the place I'm going to work. And it was in Telluride, Colorado. And I packed up my bags because I just knew in my heart I was supposed to be there, filled up my little Chevy Metro with everything I could fit in my life, including a massage table, which takes up a lot of space in a Chevy Metro.
Yes.
And I drove myself out to Telluride, Colorado before I had a job, before I had a place to live. And I just showed up and it was like, I got there and I was like, what did I just do? Like, this is the most asinine thing you could have ever possibly thought, to just show up and not have anything. But it was like everything kind of fell into place. And I always think about that because there was just this internal sense that that was what I needed to do. And so I always, when I'm feeling a little, and I know a lot of people have been feeling this lately, when you're feeling a little unsure of what direction to move or what's going to happen, or nothing feels like it's happening for you, I always just remember to wait for that spark that says, no, this is the direction. And
That
it'll
you
like
want to go.
feel so good. And you'll just have this conviction. It won't be like a in your head type. I mean, in my head could have talked me out of that scenario 100 times over, but it was like there was that part of me that was like, no, you've got to go. And it ended up being like 2 of the best years of my life. Put me on my career path and
Yeah.
met amazing people. And I've always tried to kind of remember to live my life like that. Like there's a feeling that comes with the parts of your life that are meant for you.
I agree. There has been definite, and I'm kind of like you where I'm like unsure, but there has been moments where I've moved and changed jobs all of a sudden, and it's something epic that has changed my life in the long run. And you kind of had to have the cojones to, do that move or make that change, but then it ends up being this great opportunity for you. So, and it might not be right away. So, I look back at some of the things that I've done and the choices that I made, and I think that's how I got exactly where I am right now.
Mm-hmm.
But in that moment, you're kind of like, oh, I don't know.
Why am I doing this?
Yeah, exactly.
Why am I putting myself through this? This is terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's scary. But some of the best things are going to feel scary initially. So
Exactly.
Kind of like, and that's why I think full moon work is so important, because a lot of it is kind of deconstructing what your fears are around certain things, the things that are keeping you stuck and in these certain patterns that maybe aren't working for you anymore.
Exactly. Well, do you want to talk briefly about the intentions you're going to be sending out or making available? And remember, folks, you're going to have to sign up for the newsletter in order to receive those. It'll be coming out from the Bohemian Tarot Girl website. To get signed up, you can go to the Bohemian Tarot Girl. I will also list the link in Facebook and in Instagram in my little bio area. So find it there. Make sure you're getting the information from us, and go Amy.
The intentions I'm going to be setting?
Yeah.
I'm still figuring that out. Like I'm looking for the thing that feels really good, but I feel like there's things that are happening that have been happening, and I feel like the momentum of it is kind of starting to speed up. And I'm trying to pay attention to what feels good.
Yeah.
I don't know. These doing these moon videos is a big part of, the theory that I feel like is starting to flow, and for each person, they're going to have a different path that they're on, and I just when you're setting your intentions, just really like sit down and envision what. I always like to do this when I'm thinking of my intentions, because what I want from day to day can really change. But I usually tend to look at, what do I want my life to look like? Like, ideally, if I look at my ideal life situation, what does that look like? And I think a lot of people want, like, they kind of talk themselves out of what they think they can have.
Oh,
Um,
for sure.
like, oh, well, I could never leave my job because my job offers security. Well, yeah, I wasn't even thinking of you, but yes. But are you going to have the freedom to do the things that you want if you're staying stuck in this job that doesn't allow for that? So I always kind of take away, like, what restrictions are away from it and just go, well, if I think of my life in 5 years, 10 years, what does it look like that'll make me feel really good about things?
For
And
sure.
I'll put my attentions around that. So,
For sure. And I said intentions, but I meant journal prompts
oh,
that they can access. So sorry, I screwed that up.
it's going to be kind of around a lot of what we've been talking about. Is really just, envisioning your highest life. What's your highest vision for yourself?
Yeah.
These aren't necessarily super, like, digging deep questions like a lot of times the full moon is, because in full moon you're deconstructing, and in new moon we're looking at what we want to build. So they're gonna involve more, like, kind of like, what do you see when you daydream about, the best thing for yourself?
Yeah. That's what, my class, and which is so funny because I taught this class when I was doing more business focused stuff before really intentions. Well, I mean, everybody talks about intentions now, but when I first started doing that, it wasn't necessarily a huge thing that was going on. And, I kind of use that for the plan, and people do get stuck, like, belittling themselves and not dreaming outside the box. And so that was what I always recommended, was dream outside the box. What do you want your life to look like?
And one of my first experiences with this sort of thing was when I was in massage school. We actually had to write out a business plan, and it was to write it out as what you want your business to look like in 1 year, and what you want your business to look like in 5 years, and ideally, like, what is that going to look like? So I did it initially from a business point of view, and I remember I wrote it all out, and then I went into a notebook, and that notebook went into a box when I was done with school, and I didn't pull it out for like 6 years. And wouldn't you know, every single thing that I wrote down for my 5-year plan had come true.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, so, and that was kind of, at the start of when I started working with energy work. And the idea of a secret was really big back then about,
I remember the secret.
And how you attract things to yourself. And I really made me realize that I wasn't just setting goals for myself or making this wish list. Like, I had created, my subconscious knew what my path was going to be. And this is what I want. And it all kind of came towards me when the timing was right.
Yeah, I totally agree. Sorry, I'm sitting here kind of meditating on a card for this full moon that I was going to. Oh, so I got 4 cups, and I'm using this deck, which I kind of fell in love with. It's a little bit more like, I don't know, morbid, which is not necessarily me. But if you looked at it at the Rider Waite, there's usually depicts like a man or a young man sitting under a tree. The 3 of Cups are underneath him, and he's got this other cup in front of him, and he's really contemplating, and it really like reflects, Buddha and, like the contemplation. But it's also kind of a warning when I see this card that maybe that you're not paying attention or taking the opportunities that the universe is setting at your feet. And so make sure that you're not spending so much time in your head during this full moon, that you're really seeing what the universe is also bringing to you and looking at those opportunities and making a little movement in those directions.
Mm-hmm.
We don't necessarily want to sit and meditate for all time because we're going to be missing some of those cups that are being offered to us. So,
Yeah.
how do you feel about this card? Do you want to add anything? I was like,
Aquarius, even though it sounds like it's a water sign, is actually an air sign.
Mm-hmm.
And air signs in general can be very much getting stuck in their head, and it's a very mental sign.
Yeah.
And so it's I can see how if you are too busy contemplating that you're gonna like not pay attention to necessarily the feeling or the intuition of things around you, that you might miss out on something. So
For
it's good to
sure.
have balance between the two. You can have all this mental clarity, but you also need to be able to recognize what is intuitive and what is your mind playing tricks.
For sure. I can't, yeah, now that I drew this card, I'm like, oh, I wonder if we could do a meditation and have people think about what is actually currently being offered to themselves, from the universe, what's sitting at their feet. So we should look into that.
I'll look into
on the side. I like it. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Like I said before, make sure that you sign up for the newsletter. If you're interested in the class, that'll also be in my bio, or I'll post the link on my website at thebohemiantarotgirl.com. Amy's going to post on all of her social media sites, Wise Moon Energy. She mainly uses Facebook. So if you're an Instagram user and you're a Facebook user, go find her on Facebook. So thank you, everyone, and have a great new moon. So,
Thank you.
bye.
Bye.